Hey, hello, how's everyone doing out there? Hope you all had a great weekend. I'll be with you guys shortly. We're taking a look at what happened in the UK with that bond market. We're not going to go too deep into it though, but it just goes to show that what can happen there. I mean, it could be the precipice of what could happen elsewhere. So that's kind of important. We'll be taking a look at a couple things from Gerald Salente's Trends Journal, and we'll be taking a look at Steve St. Angelo's interview. I'll play three clips from there. So I'll be with you guys shortly. If you could let me know how the audio is coming in for you. I'm just checking some monitors here or some feedback here. But again, hope y'all had a great weekend. Let me see what's out there. Lieutenant Colonel, how you doing, sir? Marlo, this is going to be interesting as always. I hope so because really, I was planning on doing a different live stream. I was taking a look at globalization backing up to regionalization, backing up to perhaps privatization. Maybe we'll do that and kind of see what the implications may be. But then because of what happened in the UK, we kind of switched things. We kind of turned things around, and we'll be taking a look at that. And more importantly, because it could trickle over into other nations as well. Carolyn Walder, how you doing? Carlos, Seymour Rivers, how you doing? Harold B, Mr. Nguyen, how you doing? Again, everyone, thank you for being here. Bill Wood, Chris Primer, Patrick Bateman, appreciate you all being here. Audio is fine. Okay, appreciate that. Thank you for letting me know. Hang on. Okay, what else is out there? James C. Well, all right. I'm gonna need your folks' participation for sure. I'll be with you folks shortly. Got to get those couple last sips of coffee in there. Hang on, let me just make sure everything is okay out here, and I'll be with you guys shortly. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV. This is our weekly live stream, and I'm your host, Patrick Vieira. Thank you, one and all, for being here. Let me just take a quick look again. Sandy Doc, first time I've seen you here. Welcome aboard. If you are new, go ahead and type in new and where you're from, and we'll see if we can go ahead and acknowledge you. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate the support. You don't know how much we appreciate the support. Chris Guliff, Denver. How you doing, Denver? I have a sister who's out in Denver. So okay, all right, small world, I guess. Anyway, Rod, how you doing, Rod Panhard? James Bell, how you doing? Ian Myers, how you doing, Ian? Appreciate you being here. Wild Child, gotta love that. Jason, like your avatar, Jason. Gold Buffaloes, they're one of my favorite coins. Peter Frowine, how you doing? Juanita Chicken, how you doing? Vincent chiming in, Silver Bullion TV. How you doing, Vincent? Good morning. And okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll get started. As always, you can find us on social media, silverbullion.com.sg. We are over in Singapore. Yes, we do sell gold and silver, platinum, palladium, things like that. Yes, we do vault. In fact, we have our own vault. So for those of you looking to store overseas, but you're worried about a third party vault, this eliminates that. I mean, when you deal with us, you're dealing with the vault. So that's a good thing. Always a good thing. And we do specialize in systemic wealth protection. You guys already see what's going on out there. So this is something that we have to acknowledge. This isn't something way down the road or anything like that. These things are, seemingly turning the corner. Silver Bullion SG is where you can find us on Facebook. Silver Bullion PL is where you can find us on Twitter. PL meaning private limited. Silver Bullion SG is where you can find us on Instagram. Bitly or audio only versions can be found on bit.ly/SBTV iTunes or SBTV Spotify. These are audio only versions. And Crisis Tracker, if you have that Telegram app, or even if you don't, go ahead and download it. It's a free app either for mobile or for desktop. Go ahead and download it. Search t.me/crisis tracker. One word, crisis tracker. And this is where Vincent and I, we will go ahead, and you folks know we're going to go ahead and then jump in these bushes and sift through the weeds and then get dirty for you and try and find out what are the things that matter, perhaps matter the most, pertaining to maybe gold, silver, finance, economics, sometimes politics, geopolitics, things like that. So we get in there, we try and find these articles, and it is getting a bit rougher nowadays. I mean, you know how it is. I mean, news is it's not what it used to be. So we go in there, we get dirty for you, and we try and figure it out. So go ahead and join that group, Crisis Tracker. One word, Crisis Tracker. So again, appreciate you all being here. Let me see what else is out there. Lieutenant Colonel, can't salute you enough there. Let's see. Yeah, as Vincent said, go ahead and join our crisis tracker group. We are starting to get more people in there, and we'll start getting some more participation in there. So appreciate you being there as well. James Bell, yes, absolutely. Thoughts and prayers to all the hurricane victims this week that happened over in the U.S. Um, you just never know. I mean, sometimes you have time to prepare. Such as we see a hurricane coming from far away. We see a typhoon coming from far away. We got a little bit of time to prepare, but sometimes you just don't know what the damage can be, and this so relates to what's going on in the financial system as well. I mean, we've had years, we've had decades, we've had decades to see what's going on and what's coming down the road. We've had time to prepare. Thing is, we may not even fully understand, even with all that preparation, we may not fully understand what it really takes to get through it all. But one of the components definitely is wealth protection. That is something that we do have to understand. Wealth protection, things like silver and gold. But again, not to take away from it, thoughts and prayers to everyone out there who was affected personally or family wise or whatever it may be. We're with you. Even though we're all the way in Singapore, we're with you all the way. Upcoming guest. You folks know him pretty well. I'm pretty sure you folks know him pretty well. He is Alistair McLeod. Alistair has been a celebrated stockbroker and member of the London Stock Exchange for over 4 decades, and his experience encompasses equity and bond markets, fund management, corporate finance, and investment strategy. He is currently the head of research for Gold Money, and he is a strong advocate for sound money. So we're looking forward to have Alistair joining us. Do hit that bell to be notified when it comes out, and you'll have to subscribe to get that notification. So absolutely, we do appreciate those. Subscribe, hit that bell to be notified, thumbs up. These things are always appreciated, as are you. As we move over to our, gotta change this graphic, Amazon gift card giveaway. We're going to be giving up to a $10 Amazon gift card for our winners. And if you want to be a winner, you're going to be or have to be one of the first five during this live stream to answer a question correctly during this live stream. And it's going to come from the Steve St. Angelo interview. So hopefully you got a chance to watch it. I mean, his interviews are always information filled. Some things you will 100% agree with, some things you may 1% disagree with. But Steve, he's one of the guys that he can track. Uh, so many things very very well: energy, silver, gold, things like that. So hopefully you had a chance to watch it. U.S. winners, you're going to be given a link. You're going to be given a link to download that gift card. Non-U.S. winners, you might have to ask Amazon to go ahead and exchange that gift card if it's not usable in your country, and provide us an email during this live stream. And what will happen is Vincent he'll go ahead and gather the emails. He'll pass it over to me, and I'll go ahead and send out these gift cards after the live stream. So I hope we are all squared away past past gift card winners. I know there were a few guys that were kind of behind. Hopefully, we caught up with them. So here we go. The question is going to come from that Steve St. Angelo interview. Hope you had a chance to watch it. And you're going to have to give me the exact word this time, because there can be so many ones that may be close, but exact word. Anyway, here we go. The silver on the LBMA is blank. This is according to Steve St. Angelo. This is according to the numbers he's looking at, the charts that people are putting out. He says the silver on the LBMA is blank. And I'm going to be looking for the exact word on this one. All right. So I'll be taking a look at the comments. In the meantime, go ahead and give it your best shot. Silver on the LBMA is blank. Sandy Dockster, I didn't know that. Sorry about that, Sandy, but appreciate you following. Mark the Silver Shark, how you doing there? How you doing there, Goldbug? Yeah, absolutely. UK pension rescue was a precursor to what's coming. It's a precursor to what's coming around the world. Absolutely. The world is awash in debt. We know that. And part of the debt, of course, are things like pensions. But anyway, go ahead and take a guess. We're in the end game now. Perfect storm. Absolutely. Okay, let's see what else is out there. Aloha Polynesian Pip. Let me see. Missing, worthless, fake, contracting, diminishing, terminal, draining, depleted, broken, gone, fake, gone, irrelevant, gone, non existent, suspect, controlled, exhausted, disappearing. I'm seeing all these answers, but I'm looking for the exact word this time around. Manipulated, fictitious. Go ahead and give it a shot. You never know. James Richter, depleted, leaving, balance sheet. Okay, I think that's it already. So no, no, no winners. The new gold exhausted. Okay, that's it. We're gonna wrap it up. Paper. Paul says gone. James Richter joined. You guys are close, but I was looking for the exact word that Steve saying Angelo had used in Jamie Dimon's pocket. You guys are too good. Yeah, now I see all these falling come in. Anyway, well, we got to get it exactly right, guys. But appreciate you participating in this. So let's move on and see if that is what exactly Steve St. Angelo said in our guest revisit.
The silver on the LBMA is falling. Matter of fact, back in the early part of 2022, it was over a billion ounces. And now it's down to only 915 million ounces. And what's interesting, before everything started really getting heated, in 2019, the LBMA had 1.1 billion ounces of silver. But the ETFs, like the iShares and these other ETFs out of London and in Europe, they only held 34% of that silver in the LBMA was in the ETFs. So there was 66% of the silver held in the LBMA was for other investments, trading, whatever. Now it's totally flipped. Of the 915 million ounces that's in the LBMA, the ETFs now control about 64% of that silver in the LBMA.
Woo. Okay, it's flipped. The ETFs now control 64% of the silver, I believe, is what he said. And there are guys that believe there is silver backing these ETFs. There are guys who believe that there is not silver backing the ETFs. We'll find out in time. But anyway, silver on the LBMA is falling. Falling is what he said. ETFs control about 64% of the silver in the LBMA, meaning it's the paper controlling the physical. Now, is it right that paper silver has such a big influence on physical silver? And what are your thoughts here? Because some things, I mean, to the layman, I'm one of them. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, everybody's talking about, green energy and how silver is going to play a role in here, with the solar and all of the connections as far as the conductivity and things like that. You would think silver's outlook is very promising, and you would think that would start to push the price up a bit. We're not exactly seeing that. So, you got to kind of wonder, the paper trading algos, whatever, maybe they're looking for a 200-day moving average, and then they're gonna, adjust the price accordingly. It just doesn't kind of make sense where these paper futures, I guess, is controlling the price. Anyway, for me, it's I kind of have a hard time really following the wake of that boat. But anyway, you tell me, what are your thoughts on this? I'll move on to another clip from Steve St. Angelo.
There's more silver in the ETFs than there is on the exchanges. So it's the ETFs now that are the more driver of the price than the exchanges, because that's where more of the metal is. And so we're seeing it also in the ETFs and the gold. It's not there yet, but this is the issue we're seeing. It's the flows of metal in and out of these ETFs and the exchanges that drives the price, not the retail bullion market. But I say in time that will become more of a driver as more institutions, more investors actually get and take delivery of physical metal. I think we're going to see that that's going to increase as time goes on, instead of these institutions and investors going into ETFs where there could be problems with these ETFs.
All right. So Again, ETFs are the driver of price, not you and me, not the retail bullion, physical bullion buyer. It is the ETF. And of course, these are the banks, the hedge funds, these guys. They're the driver of the price. More metals are being held by ETFs. Let's actually maybe hope that there is metals that are being held by ETFs. ETFs and exchanges, they do set the price. And this one here again, it's a bit rough because you and I who are buying physical, it's sort of the premiums that are kind of setting the price, the supply, the demand that is setting the price. The true things in any market, supply and demand, that is setting the price, not what we think it'll be later on down the road, how much demand it may be later on down the road. We're looking at the supply and demand today. And a lot of times, because of what's happening today, that is going to affect what's going to happen tomorrow, which is going to come back and affect the price today to meet whatever it is that is going to affect tomorrow. And it's not necessarily a trade. It's a real thing. It's a real thing in life. It's a real event. It's real things. Anyway, hey, don't get me started on this. In time, more people will take physical delivery. I think this is true. Absolutely true. You're going to see more and more people taking physical delivery. We do, and this is part of the supply and the demand factor. That is a true market, supply and demand. And of course, we're having these premiums. We're seeing premiums. You know, they're still, of course, they're still elevated compared to what they were before the bug. But we aren't really seeing these premiums across the board anyway coming back down. So you know, silver, it's a rough one right now. Gold premiums are a bit closer to spot, but you know, still it's elevated. So again, this is the true supply and demand. And he says there could be problems with ETFs. What are your puts? What are your puts? Some guy kind of had a spelling error there. Don't know who that guy is. So I'll be looking forward to your comments. In fact, let me go ahead and take a look at them now. Peter Frowine, paper silver is fake. Silver in your hands is real. Absolutely. Mark Silver Shark, excuse me. Look at the premiums. Premiums are elevated, and I'll just say, you know, the bullion dealer gets the rap. He gets the rap on this, but a lot of times, you know, it's you got to look at the hands that silver goes through. I mean, let's say if you're a miner, then you turn around, you sell it to maybe a bullion bank or whoever else, and they go ahead and give it to a refiner to make bars and coins, or to make bars anyway, whatever else. And companies come in and they'll buy to make blanks, such as the American or the U.S. Mint. They'll make blanks, and then these blanks are sent to the mint, and the mint will go ahead and make the coins. And all throughout this, you have shipping in between. All throughout this, of course, you have supply and demand. So these are some reasons, anyway, why you're seeing premiums elevated, and some of it does have to do with shipping, but some of it also has to do with, let's say, the mints themselves. You know, they are elevating the prices themselves. So by the time your dealer may get it, he's it's gone through a lot of hands by the time he got it, and so everything factors in. And then, of course, you have he runs a business, so he needs to take care of his business as well. But I think generally dealers, you know, very competitive prices. You can It's so easy to find another dealer, compare prices, and go from there. So I think, you know, generally dealers, they do stay competitive. Floater silver premiums out of control. You know, again, I'm with you. I feel it. I see it. Um, you know, sometimes I wonder, you know, like we have these silver raids and things like that, and I get concerned. I mean, I understand I understand the spirit of it all, for sure, for sure. I understand the spirit of it. My only concern with it is when we go and we raid the bullion store, we raid the bullion store. But a lot of times, as I just said, the bullion shop, he's kind of at the back of the line. You know, the guys at the front of the line are the bullion banks. And if that is the intent to go after it on that end with the banks, you know, they deal in 1,000 ounce LBMA bars. Your mom and pop store, your bullion shop, they deal in 1 ounce coins, 10 ounce bars, things like that. 1 kilo, maybe LBMA bars, but they're not at the front of the line. So when you raid the guy at the back of the line, you might not have affected the guy at the front of the line, you know, all as much as you wanted to. And then the guy at the back of the line, he has to go and again restock, resupply, and then you see premiums perhaps elevate a bit. So I understand the spirit of it all. I certainly do. But in the way it functions, I'm not sure if it's the right thing. I mean, not if it's the right thing, but I'm not sure if we're getting the result we wanted. You know, so that's all I'm saying. But the result is one thing, silver is another. Get the silver. That's the most important part. So anyway, um, I mean, let me just go to Steve's third clip from Steve St. Angelo.
Well, they've had a lot of problems in China because they built this metropolis that devours a massive amount of energy. We had droughts, right? We got droughts in Europe, droughts in the United States, droughts in different parts of the world. China, huge drought. Matter of fact, the Yangtze River is one of the lowest levels since they recorded it and since 1865. And that's where they get a lot of their hydroelectric. They've actually just completed a rail and they're delivering coal from Mongolia to China, but a lot of this coal is more for steel making. It's not the lower quality that runs in their coal-fired electric plants. The issue is China is probably going to hit a record coal production this year, Patrick. It's going to be 4.5 billion tons of coal. And so this is the massive amount of coal that they have to burn to generate the power to run their industry. And so this is very problematic. And I talk about a collapse of the Chinese economy. And the thing is that that's going to take time. But yes, this is an issue. They're still having major problems with power. That's why I still think they're doing shutdowns. Because that major city they shut down, they were having huge issues with power generation, a lot of it due to the drought. And this is going to become more problematic too. We're going to see more climate volatility on top of the energy problems.
All right. So Steve laying out a few things to think about. And China has massive energy problems. We know this. Coal imported for steel making. That is really what a lot of the coal being imported is steel making. But also 4.5 billion tons of coal are needed to produce power. So Steve brought up a pretty interesting point where our lockdowns meant to cover up the power issues in China. They meant to cover up the power issues in China. So that's something to think about. What are your thoughts on that? Let me see what else is out there. Mike G, hello. There's more silver in mirrors. Think about it. Thank you. Well, I tell you what, Mike, I really don't want to think about that too much, only because I love silver. You guys know me. I love silver, but the silver in the mirror doesn't love me back. Every time I look in that thing, hey, that silver is not loving me back. So anyway, that's a great comment there. Marlo, it's all going to hit the fan. A lot of guys are feeling it. I talk to people and they're feeling it as well. The concern seems to be more and even more urgent than they've ever felt. And these are guys who have been in the industry for a while. Let me see what else is out there. Floater, my friend in Orlando told me very hard to get any physical silver at the moment. I've been hearing that as well. And because of that, I check in with the purchasing guys at least maybe twice a week. And I'll ask them, how are things? Or is it getting tight? So far, I can tell you, so far, it's nothing alarming. When I say nothing alarming, he's never told me, no, we can't get. The worst he's ever said is maybe delays. And kind of expect that the way shipping is still. But I try to ask him, how about our guys saying that they have to allocate, or they are going to allocate, or anything like that, and word I'm getting is no. So I mean, this is from the Singapore perspective. Out here in Asia, we're not hearing tightness in the market from our suppliers right now. Um, we buy a lot of guys, they run through it, they pick it up, and then we order, we buy again, and so far no real concern on our end. So maybe we're getting different stories or views in different hemispheres, but so far so good, especially for us with the LBMA bars. A lot of the let's just say the bigger investors overseas who store with us, no problem getting these 1,000 ounce bars. So we'll Believe me, if I hear anything, I will. I'll let you know. Let me take a look at the comments here. Let's see. Um, let's see. William, this is true. This is why I was looking at globalization, realization, maybe even some sort of privatization. U.S. must resume local manufacturing of all commercial consumer goods. Um, and that is exactly why I almost took that topic road. Maybe I'll do it next week, but mainly because a lot of people they are saying globalization has failed, and I believe that when I first heard of the word globalization, and when I first heard of people like Milton Friedman talking about the goods of globalization lifting everyone out of poverty. What I got from it was globalization works. But probably one reason, maybe even the key reason why it works, is you always have to have a low cost producer. And that means somebody is always going to be on the bottom of that totem pole. And so when I first understood globalization years ago, the thing that stuck out for me was, yes, you are picking up people out of poverty, but you're always going to have people at the bottom of the totem pole, or a country at the bottom of the totem pole, being that low cost producer for everyone else. So maybe we'll do it one day. Anyway, let's see what else is out here. Yeah, deglobalization. I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it more and more. So moving on, we'll take a look at Joe Salente's Trends Journal. His weekly message, which I will have to kind of switch around and redefine some words. You folks know how that goes. 2023 will feel like a recession. Global currencies are dying. Global currencies are dying. So his weekly message, Gerald Salente: the world has entered uncharted territory with the global economy on the brink of a major crash and civilization edging toward not fun times. It is natural to ask, how did we get here? Yes, how did we get here? How could things get so wrong so fast? And the answer is simple, as they're covered by their artist Anthony Frida illustrates. Americans, anyway, have been fed junk food and junk news and have grown numb to the dangers around them, and across the globe. It's a downhill slide. The bug has destroyed the lives and livelihoods of billions of people as a result of the mandates imposed upon the people without a scintilla of scientific evidence to support them. Yet the masses pretty much they're going to go with the flow and go with the flow, do what you're told, stay apart, keep your all this protocol, things like that, and go ahead and roll up your sleeve. Anyway, now we have the um the conflict. We have the conflict going on, the U conflict, and the masses have no idea why it started. He says the masses have no idea why it started. Who is responsible for it and what's next? Instead, they swallow the what being fed to them by the politicians and the uh, media bunch, uh, who may not be giving you the entire story, and they get paid to put out the news by a lot of times the politicians and corporate. So he also does mention dragflation. And while we had forecast that inflation was rising nearly 2 years ago, the central bank stirs denied it and said it was only temporary. Remember that, temporary, transitory, all these things. And now there's worry on the street that the Fed will raise interest rates too high to stop inflation, and instead it'll sink the economy. And this was what he had put out already before what happened in UK. And he also says now, Carl Icahn, the billionaire investor, said inflation is a terrible thing, observing that it led to the downfall of the Roman Empire. You cannot cure it. Okay, 2023 will feel like a recession. Even if the global economy somehow manages to avoid a recession in 2023, millions of people around the world will suffer as if a recession has taken place, according to the madam at the IMF, which was said back in September 21. Increased interest rates will bite and we will see the impact on growth. She predicted for hundreds of millions of people, it will feel like a recession. So buckle up. Coming from the madam at the IMF, buckle up. Powell says pain. She says buckle up. The central banks around the world have raised interest rates and continue to do so, which bodes poorly, poorly for consumer spending, especially on big ticket items such as homes and cars. Now, when spending slumps, workers lose their jobs. Workers lose their jobs. If that doesn't make things worse. Now, also, the U.S. Federal Reserve's steadily rising interest rate has strengthened the U.S. dollar's value. You folks are seeing it, which has hiked the cost of imported food and especially oil and natural gas for dozens of countries, as we talked about prior. When that spigot to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve is shut off, when China opens up again, you for sure are going to see oil shoot up, and that will take everything up with it, the price of things. Now, the stronger dollar and higher interest rate also make it harder for emerging nations to service their dollar denominated debt. And there's no doubt, no doubt, the IMF will soon open up a financial food shock window to aid countries slammed by higher food prices resulting from disruptions of grains and other shipments of the EU conflict because of the EU conflict and sanctions. All right, global currencies are dying. This actually came from a featured article written by Greg Banarino from Trader's Choice in the most recent Trends Journal. He says, know this right off. Central banks have no interest whatsoever in stopping global inflation from going much higher. None, zero, he says. Now, the current fairy tale being sold to an unknowing public via the mainstream is central banks are committed to getting global inflation under control. Well, nothing could possibly be further from the truth. In fact, central banks are determined to see inflation on a worldwide level continue to rise. And here is the proof. For many months now, the Fed, along with many other central banks around the world, have been raising the overnight lending rate here in the US. This is referred to as the FFR, or Fed funds rate. Now, the theory here is that by the Federal Reserve and other central banks raising the overnight rate, it will cause rates overall to rise, which will in turn dampen demand, a slowing of demand. In theory, this should cause inflation to drop, kind of like a trickle up effect. For many months now, the Federal Reserve, in coordination with other central banks, are doing just that, raising overnight funds rate or overnight rates and the Fed fund rates monthly at every FOMC meeting for several months now. And yet inflation continues to go higher. One definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And he says, wake up call. We wake up call, what we can learn from this. A logical conclusion here is that by the Fed raising the Fed funds rate, it has no effect on slowing inflation. No effect on slowing inflation. So I'll take a look at a few comments before we look at that weekly Treasury yield inflation chart. So let me see what else is out here. Yeah, Manarino is he's the man. He's straightforward. He's going to tell you as it is. No feelings involved. No feelings involved. Let me see what else is out here. Um, let's see. Uh, let's see. Is this true, Seymour Rivers? McDonald, they're going to close drive-throughs, or is that just an opinion? Drive-through closings will be the red line. Uh, let me know. Let me know there. Let's see. Floater. Any thoughts on rumors that gold mining and owning gold will be heavily attacked in the spirit of saving the climate? Since your question is asking thoughts, not facts, just thoughts. I think you're going to see, the way the green movement has settled into people's minds. I do think you're going to see pressure, sovereign pressure. People are going to pressure their governments. As far as when they see mining, things like that. They may wonder if it's good for the environment or not, and and only thinking through one or two layers, you're going to see people pushing against it. But if you go deeper in the other layers, you realize you still need oil. No matter what, you're going to need oil. You want to use solar? Well, what happens when a hurricane comes and you don't have any sun for a few days, or your panels get destroyed? What happens with the power grids? Power grids right now in a lot of countries cannot handle you cannot handle the demand that a fully equipped electric vehicle city may draw. I can tell you in Singapore, a lot of times I run across construction zones and I see a sign that says power grid upgrade or something like that. And so I had asked an electric vehicle owner, about that, and he says already the government is putting in, new lines for the power grid to be able to handle the demand that an electrified city may call upon for power. So if you're not seeing, your local government maybe digging up the road, and you see these signs that say, power grid upgrade or whatever, then you got to ask, is the power grid capable to handle it? And this is part of the whole mining thing, because they are going to mine for things, minerals, metals, things like that. And like I say, if you're only on the first one or two layers, you're going to cry foul. You're going to say, hey, this is no good for the environment. But if you dig deeper in the other layers, you're going to reason that, you know, hey, electric vehicles, they're good. Solar is good. Wind is good. All these things are good. All these things are going to complement each other. They are not going to eliminate each other. That's not going to happen. So I think you're going to see, that, and then nuclear is supposedly the best of the green if it doesn't turn you green. But is the world ready to take on nuclear? So I think a lot of it is education. We're going to have to understand. We can't just read a headline. You can't just dump on a social media, or jump on a social media bandwagon, and you got to understand it. Like I think it was Greta Thornburg, the one who, the climate change young lady. She was in some interview, and then she said, there's enough money in the world, we have to save the banks. This is what she said, not my words. She said something about, there's enough money to take care of everything, so we have to save the banks. I don't know if I saved that clip or not. So anyway, that's my opinion on it. Never mind my opinion. I'd rather hear your opinions, and let's go ahead and take a look at that weekly inflation Treasury yield check. So again, if you see this line going up and to the right, that means everything's great. If you see it flattening out, we're losing confidence. And if you see it kind of invert, and we're in trouble. More than likely, a recession's on the way. So you can see how it moved from January of this year. I'll let you take a look at it. You can see it really starting to move come April, May, June, July, especially. You can just see it create kind of like a hump and jump, right up, and you see the left side, the short end of that yield starting to push up, and this is, I guess, if you want to, consider what happened in the UK, this is it. I mean, these yields went up, and as yields go up, the cost or the price of your bond goes down, and so they're losing money. Whenever these yields go up, they lose money, so the bank had to step in and buy, meaning try and pull down the yields, because when yields go down, then the cost or the price of your bond goes up. So they needed to try and figure out a way to stop the bleeding, I guess. All right, so let's move over and take a look at our website, silverbullion.com.sg. Let's see what's going on there with silver and gold this morning here in Asia. Let me go ahead and refresh this for you. Silver, 1931, getting a bump. So it crossed that $19 level. It's getting volatile, guys. I can tell you that, and I'm sure you folks see it. Silver's getting pretty volatile. Gold, not as volatile, but it does make moves. But obviously, silver is the one that makes the bigger moves. 1931 here this morning in Asia. Gold is 1670. So moving on over. Let me see what's on sale. 100 ounce silver or Royal Canadian silver bars, 100 ounce, 280 over spot. That's pretty good. And of course, 100-gram gold bars. Let me get back there. Gold bars from Metalor here in Singapore. Metalor has a refinery in Switzerland, and it also has one here in Singapore. $41 over spot. So let's go ahead and see that availability. If you want those 100-gram bars, you're in Singapore, you can come down to the shop at Millennial Walk and go ahead and pick up some. We have 39. If you're storing with us, or if you'd like to store with us, these are available for storage. We have 18 bars available for our international clients or customers who do store with us. 100-ounce bars, we have 46. You can come down to the shop and pick up, and we have 120 that you can go ahead and purchase for storage in the vault. And if you are one of our clients, or if you are looking to store in Singapore because you're starting to understand the benefits of a jurisdiction like Singapore, especially with what's going on, you have to open up an account with us firstly if you don't have one. And we have six types. We go through this weekly. Personal account, it's just you. Joint account, two individuals together. Trust accounts, joint account with the minor. If you want to go ahead and start something up for your children or your favorite niece or nephew, because I know there's a lot of rich uncles out there that you can actually go ahead and do this. Business account, and of course retirement account. This one again, please, 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 if you have a self-directed IRA, 401 IRK, 401k, if you have a superannuation fund, I believe in Europe it's a SEPA. I could be mistaken, but please do send us an email and ask us about these retirement accounts, because you already have the money in your retirement account to do this. This isn't something like you have to open up your wallet or go through your savings to fund this account. You already have it in your personal self-directed retirement types of accounts. So send us an email, sales@silverbullion.com.sg, and we can tell you how to go ahead and do this. It's easier than you think, but I think the time has come where we should consider these things or learn more about them. But again, the easiest one is personal account. We just need basic information, your name, basic information, and of course, we'll need an ID, whether it's a driver's license, a passport, or something along those lines, and simply fill it out. And when you come down here, this is the part that helps us out a lot. Go ahead and put in SBTV. That'll help us. So we can kind of see how we're doing with you guys, if we're helping you folks out, or if the message is getting out as much as we would like it to. So this really helps us out a lot. So there's a lot of things. I mean, to go through it all here, like peer-to-peer lending, where you can actually borrow or use your gold and silver in storage as collateral to go ahead and borrow against it. We do a lot of things that can help you as far as systemic wealth protection. So moving on to Twitter, I bookmarked a few things here. Ron Paul, let me make this a bit bigger so we can see it, or at least I can see it. Unconstitutional and immoral. Federal Reserve should not exist, but it does. And it's created an economic debacle so great that the entire world has never seen anything like this before. This is Ron Paul. It would be very naive to think the Fed has a handle on this and knows what to do. And this is why we've said before, uh, the Fed has tried to get inflation for over a decade. And once they get it, what makes anyone think they could actually control it? So we've said this before. You folks know that. Director of the UN World Food Program, David Beasley. I'm asking world leaders, I don't care how you feel about certain countries or anything, fertilizers have got to move to bring food security to the rest of the world. Otherwise, there's going to be chaos. There is going to be chaos all over the world. Not my words. This is the words from the UN World Food Program Director David Beasley talking about chaos. Moneko 64, London gold dealer runs out of bullion as trust budget shocks. Yeah, we're hearing there's a big run on gold right now anyway over in London. Let's see, worse than 2008, coming from RTD. Worse than 2008, big short investor Michael Burry basically says what's going on is going to be worse than 2008. So that I would take heed with him saying that. This was interesting. United Nations Melissa Fleming says they own the science on climate change, and they have worked with Google to make sure the algorithms shows only UN information. Now, this is not a knock on climate change, if you believe it or not. What this says really is how search engines, they are surely influenced. They are then influencing us. We will see certain things, we will not see certain things when we go ahead and search it. And she's laying it out here. She's not hiding it. She's They're making sure, the UN is making sure that you will find the algorithms that show only UN information. So again, this is why I say keep your head on a swivel. We have to see what's going on. Silver inventory in Shanghai Gold Exchange and Shanghai Futures Exchange both are declining. The red line is the inventory. The black line is the transaction price. This is from ICBC, so we can see a gap here starting to happen, where the red line is ducking under the black line as far as inventories. Whoop, what happened there? Okay, let me move on a bit, and I do understand that there's some price differences as well. So this one, if you had a chance to watch it, it's also good. This interview that Chris Markets had with Rob Keynes. Credit markets move towards breaking points, coming from Lynette Zhang, an article from Bloomberg. They're worried about the credit market, if you can believe that now. Things are tightening up. Liquidity is tightening up. Um, let's see what else is out there. Let's see, gold eagle premiums hit all-time highs, according to Steve St. Angelo. So again, the spot price is the paper trading price. That's one thing. The price you and I are paying, that is a premium on the physical price, which is above the spot price. That is something else. But this is some good news. Best news I've heard in a long time. Thank you, Ronald. McDonald's is releasing Happy Meals for adults. So, adults, you'll start getting some of these reminiscent types of things that you remember. It's all about feeling good, right? All about feeling good is what they say. Australia's home prices, they are in sort of a fall, not necessarily a free fall, but they are going down. Interest rates soar, but the purchases aren't there, and home prices are falling. So I tell you what, maybe I shall, or I will end it there with Twitter. It's getting tougher to find some good news, guys. I'll be honest with you. A lot of the news I'm coming across are all, people concerned, uh, companies concerned, Wall Street concerned. So much concern out there. It's really starting to bubble over. Let me check with the comments before we move on to the topic of the day. Um, let me just check here. Okay. Yeah, Chris Primer, the green movement. I mean, I understand it. I mean, you always want to leave something in a better way, in a better place than how you found it. I get it. I totally get it. But we also got to balance it out with living, just day-to-day living, of course, with sustainability and things like that. So we have to find that balance, and it gets a little bit hard when you're just being, the media and everybody is on one half of that, teeter totter, and so everybody's here, and you don't really get too much of the other half of it, and we're left to think for ourselves, as Joe Salenti says, think for yourself. Let's see. um Let me go through some of the comments here. Yeah, Jay, corruption is why we are in this situation. Have to agree. I would have to agree when, you look at places like Lebanon. They will tell you how they got there is corruption. Almost always the downfall of an empire had to do with, a form of corruption. So and that's a great comment there. Um, let's see what else is out there. Okay, I guess everything's okay. Let me get started with the topic of the day. We're going to be taking a look at buying gilt to the hilt. Gilt is the government UK treasury, so that's what the gilt is. I didn't misspell it. I didn't forget the U. That's that's what it is. Gilt. So we saw the Bank of England intervene in the bond market or the government bond market and basically reverse course. They reversed course. They pivoted in its monetary tightening objective. And to understand things a little bit better, I came across this website here from Sky News. Um, what are bonds? How are they different to gilts? And where do they fit in the mini budget crisis? They're calling it a mini budget crisis. Okay. So Sky News understands that had the Bank of England not intervened to buy up long dated gilts, several pension funds could have dissolved by Wednesday afternoon. Again, this all came out last week. And this is what we've talked about before. Had they not intervened, they could a lot of these funds could have dissolved by Wednesday. Now remember, going back to 2008, we talked about this. Had they were they not able to do anything, they were not going to tell you and I. If they were not going to tell us, it just would have happened. Same thing here. Nobody's really saying anything. Then they got the bank to intervene, and of course there were meetings going on before that, but you and I were not privy to it. And then the result would have been a lot of these funds being dissolved. So you and I were not going to know about it. We were not going to be told. We're only being told because they so-called fixed it. So the Bank of England has made the very unusual move of buying long dated gilts to restore stability after Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng's mini budget sent the markets plummeting. Now, long dated gilts are a type of government bond that make up a large proportion of pension pots. So the question here is, have we lost you? Is what they're saying. This might be over some people's heads. So they want to break it down just a bit with the jargon, and this is why I came to this website. Now, a bond, also known as a fixed income investment, is a debt-based investment. In terms of risk level, they sit between cash and shares. Effectively, they are an IOU. When you invest in a bond, you are lending a company, organization, or government money for a set number of years. Now, in return, you get regular fixed interest payments, okay, which are referred to as the yield or the coupon, as some people say. When the loan period ends, the bond reaches maturity and the investors pay back the original amount in full. So along the way, you're getting the interest, and then at the end, you get back. Let's just say the principal, sort of. I guess we could say it that way. Now, what's a gilt? How are they different from gilt? I mean, well, what is a gilt? They are the name given to UK government bonds. In the US, they are called Treasury bills or T bills. In the UK, they are called gilts. Now, the government issues bonds to generate money for government spending, which you can then spend on infrastructure. So, government needs money. They do a few things. They tax you, but not popular. If you want to get reelected, you don't want to tax people. In fact, you want to give them more. You want to give them more, and you want to give it to them free. So, they issue things like bonds to generate money for government spending. Okay, they'll go ahead and do it that way. So let me go down here. Let's see. This is key here. When confidence in the UK economy falls, so does the bond price. So when the confidence in the UK economy falls, so does the bond price. Now remember, the price and the yield of a bond are inverted, which means if the bond price is falling, that means the yield is going up. So we could reword this as confidence in the UK economy falls when the yields go up. Hope I'm explaining that right here. This increases the yield. Yes. So the rate of increase or cost of borrowing as investors seek to protect their money. Okay. These guys are seeking to protect their money. Now, and over in Singapore, we saw, some news articles come out where, the UK financial crisis, why the Bank of England stepped in, and what's next. So coming out from London, of course the central bank resorted to buying bonds again. They pivoted in an emergency move to reduce the chaos in the British financial markets. If they consider this chaos, what are they going to call it down the road when these things really, really unpeel? keel all over the place in more than one places or more than one place. Now, the slump in government bond prices and subsequent surge in yields has threatened to wreak havoc in the country's pension. Okay, this is about the pension industry, hurt the housing market, and increase the recession risk for the broader economy. Here is why the BOE acted and its impact. So investors were worried because they were told there were going to be tax cuts and energy subsidies promised by Ms. Truss even before the finance minister Kwarteng announced more cuts or taxes, more cuts to taxes on Friday or last week. So rather than heed Kwarteng's promise of stronger economic growth, investors took fright at the prospect of higher inflation caused by tax cuts, which they saw as forcing the Bank of England to speed up its interest rate increases. So guys were thinking, they were thinking here, right? And we also saw the pound plunge, adding to inflation pressure in a country that relies on imports for its fuel, food, and other products. Even more worrying for the Bank of England, yields on government bonds leapt, especially on long-term debt, threatening to cause problems in Britain's pension industry. All right, I'll kind of stop there. So gilts, they're just really government bonds. And the key problem is that pensions are tied to these bonds, and that means pensions, they're losing money. They're losing money, therefore the Bank of England had to intervene. Now, the key word I got in all of this was, and I highlighted that when confidence in the UK economy falls, so does the bond price. And this increases the yield, the rate of interest, or the cost of borrowing as investors seek to protect their money. The extraordinary move of a central bank buying bonds is designed to restore confidence in government's finances, increasing bond prices and decreasing the yields they would have to pay on them. I find this, um, I just find it pretty ironic because it seems like kind of like the opposite. Because if you ask me, I mean, being baffled here, hey, how do I crank up the printing press. I stroke the keyboard and create more fake money to restore confidence. Is that how it's worked? Is this where we've come to? That's what I'm gonna do. I mean, crank up that press, hit some digits on the keyboard, and hey, I got all the confidence in the world in you. Is that, in the words of Greg Manarino, duh. That is the biggest duh ever. How does that restore confidence or realize? I mean, how does it work that way? I mean, I I gotta be a fool this time to fall for this again, or to fall for the same story, same rhetoric, time and time and time again. Let's make fake money. We'll get people to believe it. Everything's gonna be a okay. And I'll be straight. This is why I say time and time again. Whenever you hear an economist, a financial news channel, politician tell you the economy has recovered, I say run. Turn off that mistake, change the channel, and find leaders that know the truth and value in sound money. We got to stop believing in this fiat fakery. That's what it is, fiat fakery. And as the late Rob Kirby would say, chicanery. And this is all a bunch of chicanery. So, getting back to the Bank of England, could this happen elsewhere? Could pensions be the domino to start a global crisis? Could be. I'm not going to say it is, could be, but obviously this is something that governments fear. This is the guilt of governments. All right. So let me take a look at a few comments here before I move on. All right. Little G sabotage the pipeline. All right. Okay. Let's see what else is out there. Let's see. Uh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Looks like it's all right here. Okay. I see. You know what? I'll just move on. Okay. Let me move on. So, you know, what's going on? The fiat fakery. Okay, fiat fakery. This is something that governments they do fear. Now, the Global Pension Assets Study estimates global pension fund assets across 22 major pension markets, or the P22. These geographies now total a record 56 trillion in pension assets and account for 76% of the GDP of these economies. Now, the study The study they include the analysis of 7 large markets, the P7: Australia, Canada, Japan, Netherlands, Switzerland, UK, US. They comprise 92% of total pension assets. Now, this is pretty much unchanged since the previous year, 2021. All I'm saying here is there's a huge amount that is locked up in pensions. Okay, a huge amount locked up in pensions. So this goes to say that if any, and I speculate it's all of these countries are in a similar position as the UK, where yields are rising. We're seeing it, yields are rising, and pensions are tied into yields. We are seeing the first signs of things getting too hot and boiling over. Now, imagine, just imagine if we start to see this happen in other countries, where it starts to move into other countries. Now, as an example, within the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or the OECD, the UK has 6.6% of the pension assets in this group. Okay. Now, the largest amount of the pension assets in this group is the US at 65.6%. So when you look at the UK, 6.6%, UK is, or the UK at 6.6, US at 65.6. US is 10 times greater. Public pension reserve funds, they cut across the traditional boundaries of the different components of pension systems. I know there's a lot of, yada, 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 yada here, but they manage assets like providers of funded and private pension arrangements, but generally aim at supporting unfunded public pension arrangements, because a lot of this is unfunded. Don't forget this. Now, these institutions can play an important role in pension systems, as they sometimes hold and manage more assets than funded and private pension arrangements as a whole. So, which countries now? Which countries are the best equipped? Best equipped. Let's look at the other side of the coin here. The best equipped to support their older citizens and, of course, their pensions. Okay, let me throw this up here. So, in this chart, we see the let me get to the top here. The best and worst pension plans by country. This is back in 2021. As the world population ages, which countries are best equipped to support their older citizens and which ones are lagging behind? So again, this is ranked on the best and the worst pension plans. So again, this is sort of like the benefits that are coming in these pensions. So at the top are Denmark, Iceland, Netherlands. We can see the UK here. All right, UK here. We can see the US is below the UK. Whole lot of countries below the UK. And again, I know this has to do with benefits, but let's look at this breakdown here. Adequacy weighed in at 40% of this ranking, which is the base level of income, net dividends, and the design of the region's private pension system. But it's these two why, the thing that stuck out with this chart: sustainability, 35%, the state pension age, the level of advanced funding from government, and the level of government debt, and integrity, regulations and governance put in place to protect plan members. So it's these here. They're 60% of what's being weighed into the best pension plans by country. And we saw what happened in the UK, despite sustainability and integrity being factored in, and the UK being way up here. Well, what happened? What happened? Obviously, the sustainability, it's not there. The integrity may not be there as well. So you got to kind of wonder, really, if is the funding's not there. I mean, basically, that's it. We know that already. The funding is not there. It's part of all this unfunded liability, uh, trillions and trillions that we're seeing. So at least two things they stood out: that sustainability and integrity. And again, we went over that. The sustainability means the advanced funding from governments. Well, that didn't go too well. And integrity means the regulations and governments put in place to protect plan members. Well, that didn't go too well. I mean, you may say, well, they saved the pensions, but inflation is going to continue to go up. So again, we got to kind of see things from different ways here. So with that infographic in mind, I'd have to ask myself: does this mean any nation below the UK may have more of a probability to experiencing the same conditions that the UK is experiencing. Thing is, I know, yes, 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 there is far more than that that goes into it. However, it does go to say that even with, as I mentioned, sustainability and integrity, nations do get in trouble, and you and me pay the price. You and me pay the price. I'll give you another example here, real quick. So when I okay, let's see. All right, so when I look at this, unfunded pension liabilities grew more grew more than the debt. If you can believe this, unfunded pension liabilities grew more than debt, and unfunded retirement healthcare costs. So just look at these three lines here. The light blue on the top is unfunded pension costs. Look at this. It is even more than the darker blue line of debt. So we can see debt here, but look at this unfunded pension liabilities. It's just way, way above the debt. Unfunded pension liabilities has grown more than even the debt. So financial systems, they are linked all over the world. And if something were to happen fiscally, monetarily in the US, it'll find its way around the world. And there is much more that can go wrong on the US side. All right. I just showed you it's even 10 times more than what was going on with the UK. So likewise, the same is true with other countries, which is why the concern. Let me take a look. I believe it's this one here from our favorite news source, CNN. U.S. officials troubled by controversial UK tax cut. All right. So, U.S. officials are increasingly troubled by the United Kingdom's proposal to slash taxes at a time of crushing inflation, a plan that has ignited turbulence in financial markets. Let me just get to the key point here. Um, the risk for the U.S. is looking out for itself right now, being 10 times bigger than UK as far as these pensions go. The risk for the United States is that any trouble on the other side of the Atlantic could spill over to the global financial system and world economy. So US is also worried. Pensions unfunded liabilities are a very big concern, and that seemingly has no concern. It's like nobody really understands or cares about it. With bond yields rising all over the world, we're going to see more and more of what happened in the UK and in other countries. I'm pretty sure of this. With the US, this is sadly something you can count on, and in other countries you can count on as well. Um, so there are also concerns with I'll just run through this. Of course, the UK pension storm is coming to Europe. It may be the end of Europe as we know it. This came out a few years back before the bug, so you can imagine it may be even a bit more stressed now, of course, with yields starting to rise. So of course there's concern in the UK. um, I won't go through the numbers because this is a bit dated here. Swiss, so there's concern there with the Swiss. There's concern with France, Belgium, Germany, Austria, Spain are in deep trouble. So again, this was back before the bug when yields were low. Now that yields have come up, I mean, you can imagine that these countries could be even in a bit more of a predicament coming down the road. And it's beyond the power of the politicians, which a lot of times are the guys that kind of did this. So anyway, with this, what's going on, we need to step back and question: Is the Fed breaking things? Is the Fed breaking things? Will the Fed have to step in and pivot the way the UK did? This will be the last article I'll pull up here. Let me see. Markets entered a perilous new phase this past week. Um, let's see. That could force the Fed to prop up the Treasury market. That would mean the end of tightening. That would be going back to QE. All right. The Fed may have to enter, or things could cause the Fed to enter and intervene in the bond market the way the UK did. So let me get down to just a few of the key points here. The Fed is breaking things, said Benjamin Dunn, a former hedge fund chief risk officer who now runs consultancy Alpha Theory Advisors. There's really nothing historical you can point to for what's going on in markets today. We are seeing multiple standard deviation moves in things like the Swedish krona, in treasuries, in oil. Check this out, in silver. Even in silver, he says, like every other day, these are not healthy moves. It's interesting that he would point out silver, not gold, but silver. For now, it is the once in a generation rise in the dollar that has captivated market observers. Global investors are flocking to higher yielding US assets thanks to the Fed's actions, and the dollar has gained strength in rival currencies, pushing the dollar index to the best year since its inception in 85. Let me see if there was anything else out here. And then, well, also the repo fears. But I think there was something else in here. Yeah, the Fed may have to stabilize the price of treasuries here. We're getting close. We are getting close, he says. Market participant for more than 30 years, he's noticing that the Fed may have to intervene. What's happening may require them to step in and provide emergency funding. Doing so will likely force the Fed to put a halt to its tightening program ahead of schedule, just as the Bank of England did, according to Connors. While that would confuse the Fed's messaging that it's acting tough on inflation, the central bank will have no choice. They're going to have no choice, paint themselves in the corner. So I'd have to say at some point the wheels will come off. Question is, what will cause it to come off? Pensions, maybe. A lack of trust in governments, probably. A lack of trust in fiat, surely. Inflation, hyperinflation, stagflation, definitely. Does any but really, does any one particular singular reason really matter? I mean, we're seeing what's happening going on. Those reasons don't matter. All we need to know is that money and the current monetary and financial system, it'll die. It will die. And the real question is, what do we do? What do you and I do? Um, so again, this topic of the day was really just to say what happened in the UK. It could be a precursor of what's going to happen elsewhere. We're seeing it happen with the pension markets, is what they want to say. But the point is, it started way before that. Governments out there, fiscal irresponsibility. Now, it's things are getting worse. They can't. They're running out of places to maneuver themselves to, and we're just going to have to face the pain, as Paul said. We're going to have to, Madam from the IMF, I forgot what she said, but something along those lines as well. So, what do we do? What are you doing? What do we do here? Happy birthday, John. Let's see what else is out there. Um, let's see, Jay. Don't bail out the big banks. You know, the thing is that the banks will bail out themselves. We already know that there are things like bail-ins. So, I mean, don't bail out the banks. I get it. I get it. But we also got to understand it's already set up where if they need to, they can go ahead and reach in your account. They can reach in your account. And I've had guys tell me, hey, I'm not worried about that because my money is insured. And I mean, I say to them, yes, it is insured, but consider this. If your money does get pulled out, you go back to the bank and you say, "Hey, my money is insured. You got to give me back my money." Now, what if they just give you a form to fill out? They say, "Okay, you know what? You're right. It is insured. Fill out this form and we'll get back to you. Fill it out. We'll get back to you." Well, what do you do in the meantime, right? So yeah, it is insured, but will it be there when you need it? That's really the issue. So let's see what else is out there. Harold B. Forget hedge funds confiscate confiscate the Fed. All right. Okay. Let's see. Jay, the banks knew the risk. Of course they did. But when you're Jay Powell and you're getting Congress, down your throat every day, I can't prove this. I'm just speculating a scenario here. You're supposed to be independent from your government, but I don't see that. Your government is going to tell you what to do. You're just going to go ahead and do it. I mean, hit the keyboard, create money out of nothing, and you move on. So I don't see that separation between central banks and governments. I mean, Take Draghi for example. He's the president of the ECB. Next thing you know, he's leading a country. It's I don't know. I mean, these two they're tied at the hip. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious for us to see that already. Let's see, Mr. Razor, peop those people in the P business, they are allowed to lie to the public. Yeah, um, that is true. I've even heard once where anything you say on the congressional floor cannot come back to you. If you're a politician and then you're just kind of doing your debating or whatever it is, it can't come back to you to sue you over something that you said. So you can straight up say what you want to say, and that's part of it. We have to really figure things out on our own here. Um, let's see. Yeah, here's the thing, Mr. Nguyen. I used to like the sound of falling dominoes until I realized one of the dominoes is my 401k. That's the thing. This is why I say for you guys who do have 401k, self-directed IRAs, superannuation funds over in Australia, I believe, and I believe it might be SEPA over in Europe or in the UK. This is why I say it's important for you folks to understand, um, take a look at a precious metals retirement account. The reason being, you surely know if you leave your retirement account in fiat, you surely know you're going to lose that purchasing power. So as you retire, you think you have, let's just say, $1 million. You're not going to be able to buy $1 million worth of things. Nominally, you're going to get that amount in fiat, but can you buy things with it? So it's kind of like saying over the long term, when you look at the history of the dollar from its inception in 1913 till today, 1913, it could buy you $1 worth of things, or it had a value of $1. Today, it's down to 4 or 3 cents. So over time, it loses value. Now, if that dollar loses value over time, you got to equate that with your pensions, your 401ks. It's going to lose value over time. Now, you may see it, I'm getting a return, I'm getting a return, it's going up, it's going up, it's going up. So you may see that as some kind of an offset to the purchasing power. But when it goes, it goes. And I think, it's not financial advice or anything, but maybe a good idea to diversify a little bit of that pension, put it in, precious metals IRA. And again, we can help you with this. I'm not trying to hard sell anything. It's just because um, I don't want to see people get wiped out. You know, that's a hard part. That's a sticky point. I don't want to see people get wiped out. Especially you worked all your life, all your time, your labor is built into that retirement account. And if anything should happen to that, you and I, my friend, we don't have time to recuperate. We do not have time to recuperate whatever we lost. And so for that reason, if I know that the dollar value is going to go down, and if I know that silver and value just, I mean silver and gold, the way despite the price movement today, I expect that price or the value of it to go up and store my wealth, then I'm not so worried about the price today. I'm more worried about the purchasing power or the wealth that is stored in it tomorrow. And for that, I see um, a better instrument to do that more than keeping it in the dollar. Again, none of this is financial advice. Do not take it as financial advice. All I'm saying is, if you have a retirement account, if you're not sure how to look into it or how to begin to look into it, just contact us. Sales at silverbullion.com.sg. Uh, I'm going to see it. Vincent's going to see it. If we may even respond personally to try and help you out with it. So it's just about understanding how to go about doing it, and you can actually. They're going to tell you need to vault your precious metals, and you can actually vault them here in Singapore. It doesn't need to be in the US or in Australia. So just contact us. We'll help you. We'll help you through it. But Mr. Nguyen, I get it. I understand. I completely understand. Uh, Maybe you should contact us. No. Okay, so let me look through the comments a bit more. Okay, let's see. Yeah, MX old timer. End all public pensions now, except military and criminal property taxes. Cut government spending by 50% and politics. Civil servants work for minimum wage. I don't know about the civil servant part. I mean, they're servants. They're civil servants. They're trying to help you and me as well. But you know, I a lot of it has to do with the benefits that attract people. The benefits need to attract people because it's not often talked about. But when I go into a civil servant type job, let's say, and I spend 20 years in there and I have a nice benefit package and I retire and I live another 20 years, hopefully, I'm getting that package without putting in anything to get that package. So I have to, as an employer, I got to attract new guys in order to pay for my old guys that left and aren't contributing anymore. Kind of like a Ponzi scheme. A lot of people have said, or likened it to a Ponzi scheme. Governments, they got to do this to attract new people to pay for the older guys that are retiring and not contributing anymore, or they're gonna make people work longer before they can get their retirements out. But it's you got to attract people to come in to pay for or put into the system to take care of the guys that have exited the system and are drawing out and no longer contributing in. Ponzi scheme, right? This is more or less it. A few more comments and then we'll head out here. Let's see. Um, okay, let me see what else is out here. Okay. Uh, okay. All right. I guess we're okay. I'll just move into the commentary part here. You know, let's just say Powell does do a pivot, fires up the press. We'll see the financial media cheer. Hey, we're on our road to recovery. Remember, be careful of that word recovery. We'll see these financial guys cheer and start to call it a recovery. But in this, remember at the start of this main topic, we said when confidence in the economy falls, so does the bond price. All right. This increases the yield, the rate of interest, or cost of borrowing as investors seek to protect their money. Rising bond yields, rising interest rates, investors will seek to move to protect their money. I suspect a good amount of people looking to protect their money, their wealth, are going to indeed move into gold and silver. One thing to keep in mind, don't be discouraged with the lower prices. At least, silver and gold, if they're getting a bump today. My fear is that the lower prices, in a way, they kind of keep things under cover in a way where people, they may not have interest in gold and silver because they don't see it doing much. So price is kind of keeping things undercover because what's happening is, as you folks mentioned there, I haven't seen it yet, but as some of you folks mentioned, trying to get the physical may be getting harder. That's really a hard part where trying to get physical is getting harder, but you don't see the price moving. So you have no interest in getting gold and silver. Next thing you know, it becomes hard to get because you were looking at the price instead of looking at everything going on around you. So I'm not saying you, but I'm saying us collectively. Anyway, few more comments here, and then I'll head out. Yeah, VK Travelog, appreciate that. Thumbs up are always good. Let me see what else is out there. Okay, let's see. Yeah, black swans. Really, we don't know what it. Well, we're already in the flock of black swans, if you ask me. We're already there. And there's a flock of black swans, and you and I are we're kind of in it. Can bonds default? That's a good question. Straight away, I want to say yes, but I mean, if you think about it, they can just print you useless paper, pay you back nominally what's supposed to be paid, and it didn't default. So, you know, I want to say yes on one hand, but on the other hand, I want to say no because that's what they simply could do. We would consider it a default, you and I, but government wouldn't. They paid back what they're supposed to pay. So that's a good question there. Um, okay, so let me see what else is out there. VK Travelog. I'm not worried because my money is in gold and silver, and stored under the guard of Patrick. I can tell you, it's. I can go down and take a look, and I can assure you, it's all there, and it is in your name. You own it. It's not in the company's name. Surely not in my name. It's in your name. You own it, and that's one of the things that separate us with a lot of other companies. When you buy and store with us, it's completely in your name, completely identifiable to you and you alone. It's not on our balance sheet anymore. You own it. The invoice is there as you know where you are the owner, and that's it. You own it. We just kind of become like a sophisticated, secure warehouse storing your things. So imagine you got to move and you put your furniture in the warehouse. The furniture is yours. You own it. Okay, but it's just a warehouse that'll take care of it. Kind of sort of the same thing, but to a higher degree where you own that physical gold and silver is yours, it's in your name, and we take care of it for you. We secure it for you, but it's yours. It's really yours. So we take care of the insurance, everything else. If you need to sell it, you let us know. We go ahead and sell it, send the money to your bank account. So no need to worry. This can be done 24/7, any day, 24/7. If you want it shipped, we can, ship it back. We can withdraw it, whatever it is. If you're in Singapore, you want to take it out, we go ahead and withdraw it if you want. Um, you want to take a loan against it, you can do that. A lot of things you can do. A lot of things you can do. So, with that, um, let me just make sure I got some key ones here. I'll end it with this one. When the sky is falling, stick your head in the sand. Uh, maybe to a point, but I'll just take it as we find relief, find your peace, find your relief. For some of us, that peace is actually owning silver and gold. That actually is the peace. So, with that, I'll go ahead and wrap it up. I didn't want to go too deep into this. The point being that, what happened in the UK, it can ripple to anywhere. As that article pointed, what happened across the Atlantic can ripple over to the US, or what happens in the US can ripple over to Asia. It can happen all over. Financial systems are all connected. This is why it's good to have maybe one big toe out of the financial system. Get yourself some silver and gold. Not financial advice, just it's just something I would do. But with that, I'll wrap it up. I'll see you guys next week. Take care of yourselves. Be a blessing, not a burden. Make sure you try and take in as much information as you can, and make the best choice for you, your family, and your friends. So with that, you know, as I always say, saddle up for what's coming ahead and silver up as well. I'll see you guys next week. Take care. Oops. Take care. Oops. I'm here again. I don't want to leave you guys. But anyway, you guys take care. I'll see you guys next week.